So sometimes you just need to shut the cameras off, go into dark mode, and just figure some things out. So the goal is to cut that comb to get this lift mechanism installed in like it's supposed to be. One of the problems I was having right off the bat was figuring out how I'm even going to mount this thing in the vices or onto the mill so that I can do this, get the plane of cut level, and then avoid any vibrations or any movement in the stock as I'm cutting it. I tried to clamp it up in the vise itself, but the vise is just not tall enough to get a good secure grip on it. And then if I do, there's the risk that I'm going to squish the wood and then dent the finish and blah blah blah. So I decided not to do it that way. So ultimately what I ended up doing was taking one of my 90-degree angle blocks, gauge blocks, and I secured it to the mill, and that kept that secure. And then I clamped the stock to the angle block, and by doing that I can keep the thing from moving up and down, and then any vibration. Vibration is the real killer when you begin to cut this wood, because if it vibrates you get a bad cut. Next thing I need to do is I need to turn the spindle speed up. From some of our previous videos, if you remember, we always want to have spindle speeds that are fairly quick for cutting wood. Alright, so I've got to run the three-phase converter in order to run the mill, so you're going to get that background noise. Alright, so I've got to speed this up. Much better. So in the last video I spent some time getting the cuts, the bandsaw cuts, smoothed out and as level as I can, or as flat as I can. Now what I needed to do was also to get those cuts level to the plane of the axis of the Bridgeport, so that when I go to make these cuts, my depths are going to be the same all the way across, and I won't have any taper in either direction. Using a simple level, my table is set up level in both directions. You know, you spend time on that early on, getting the plane of the mill level to earth, and then it becomes easy to set things up later on. So I've done that using the level. So she's good. She's good enough because in the distances that I'm moving, 1 or 2 thousandths taper in any direction is really not going to matter that much. I also needed to make sure that I was following the lines that I had drawn on the stock, my cut lines. This is going to be mostly visual. Once we get the first cut in, we can start using the mics and getting our widths where we want them. So I set that up, simply trace down the pencil line, and the pencil line is almost dead on, so that when I start cutting I can just use the axis of the machine to get the mill to follow the lines. Alright, let's go ahead and do this. We're going to do this in small increments. Again, I don't want to put any kind of stress on the wood through the cutter that's going to make it want to wander or move on me. Alright, so that cut traced that pencil line almost perfectly. I'm very happy with that. We'll come along and we'll get the other cut line on the other side. I can get a dimension. So this is 875 across the entire width of it. So we want to be just slightly bigger than that. So we're about 10 thousandths smaller. So I got to make this just a hair bigger. There we're at. Alright, so we got that done. So if we measure the depth off the Ruger trap gun, they got that at 270, and the thickness of this is 255. Right now we are at, impossible to read. So we're at 100, so we've got quite a bit of depth still to go. Okay, that looks really good. We've got the main depth done. The next thing we need to do is we need to cut these two pockets down inside this main cut. And that is for the adjusters that go on the bottom of this plate. And it's those adjusters that when you loosen them up, you can move them left and right to get the comb centered to the main stock. Now when I measure the Ruger stock, those are 100 thousandths deep. The disc, or the washer that holds this, is 60 thousandths deep. There really is no preciseness or no real measurement to this. It's 440 thousandths. The washer is 440 thousandths. These cuts are 540 thousandths. So basically what I need to do right now is just build in some clearance so that when this thing gets installed into the stock, that it all fits nice and flush. So I'm going to start out by touching the bottom of the current cut. I'm going to lock the spindle in place. Then I'm going to make all my adjustments with the table by bringing the table up. Start the spindle. It's 50. says 100. Come across. Okay, I got plenty of room there. Let's come on over to the other side. And we'll do the same thing again. And again, just remember all we're doing is creating clearance. Alright, so that looks really good. Nice snug fit, the radiuses look good. We're going to pull this out. The next thing we're going to do is set up and cut the same mirror image over on the comb itself. Alright, I've got the comb all marked out, all traced out, and I'm ready to do the cuts. I'm going to do this in two phases. I've got a 1/2 inch mill in there right now that I'm going to remove the bulk of the material out to the edges of the lines. And then I've got a 762 mill, which the radius is exactly what I need for that insert that has to go in. So I'll finish that up with this. The 1/2 inch mill is going to be a lot less stress on the wood, and then I'll finally come in and do the final cuts, the final radiuses with this. So the last thing I need to do is I need to drill these relief holes, and those relief holes are where these lift pins go in when it goes down inside the comb. So I've got to get them lined up so that the holes go down through perfectly into the pinholes or clamp holes on that top or comb. So I'm going to have to drill those, but I got to get them lined up. So I've got the clamping mechanism installed in the comb. I'm going to use this gauge pin, and I'll get this lined up using the gauge pin. Once I've got that lined up, I'll pull the clamp block out. Now I know that my holes are perfectly lined up. I know this is all level like it's supposed to be. So I know this drill is lined up to the location in the clamp block. So I can drill straight down in and be confident that there's enough room. Now these holes, these relief holes, are actually a little oversized. The lift pins themselves are 310 thousandths, and the hole, the relief holes, are 370 thousandths. So it's oversized so that there's enough room for that to fit in there. The only other thing I need to know is what is the depth. So the depth is ½ inch. And of course, I need to make sure I don't come out the top. That would suck. We'll see how far we're going to go. Play coward here. I want to see how thick that is. Overall, we're 700 thousandths thick. So we're 300 deep here. And we're 350. So we're at 650. I think we're going to stop right there so we don't go down through the entire thing. So we'll take the drill out. We'll put the left lift mechanism back in. Now let's put the gauge pin back in. We know our alignment is good left and right, so all I've got to do is get the length. Okay, there we go. Crank the table back down because the drill's too long. Alright, so the last thing that we need to do is we need to cut these little reliefs for the Allen key or the Allen wrench so that those Allen screws can be tightened to adjust the height. Alright, so we're done. All I've got left to do is to pull the blue tape, do any final fits, you know, just kind of small adjustments where I need to do it. Then I got to drill the screw holes so that I can screw those plates into both the buttstock and the comb. Do any final finishing that needs to be done because again I've cut away all that material. Alright, so all the parts are done. We're ready to reassemble. If you've been following along in my last short, which was quite a while ago, I mentioned that I made a mistake and I had to fix that mistake. I didn't do all of that on camera. I wanted to get through it. Unfortunately, I put a cut in the wrong place, and one of the cuts that I put in the wrong place were these 2/4 inch cuts. I put them out of alignment with the set block that goes in here. Measure twice, measure 3 times, measure 5 times, then do the final cut, and I messed up anyway. So I had to fix this, I had to repair it, and I had to make it disappear, and that was a little bit of a challenge this time. If you've been following my channel for a long time now, you know that one of the things that I've learned how to do is to do faux finishing. The idea that you take oils, artist oils, and you paint in the grain to help make repairs blend in or disappear. Now, I learned how to do that more so because I spent a lot of time repairing other people's mistakes, and this time I had to repair my own mistake. I don't like making mistakes, but I did in this case, and the results are it's really came out pretty good. You're not going to really see the mistake or see the mismatch cut that I did. Anyway, so I fixed that, and that's taken me a couple weeks to get through all that. And also, no matter how hard you try, and I mentioned this in another video, that Browning puts these very hard, thick, glossy finishes on. When you do this kind of work, you're gonna do some amount of chipping on these things. And I did some small chips on that finish. So I had to repair that. And again, repairing Browning's finish it's a task. It takes effort. So again, I had to build up finish in order to level it out to that original Browning finish. So again, that's been a couple weeks just trying to build up the finish in those chips, one little dab of finish at a time. And then finally you get it thick enough that you can sand it with a 600 grit paper and then begin to blend that off. Anyway, that's done. I finally got all that finish blended off. This thing looks good. So today's episode, what we're going to do is we're going to install all of the metal lift mechanisms into the components. And so the first thing we have to do is install the lift block itself. So I've got to install these very tiny screws, and I just want some kind of guidance or some kind of relief so that when I'm screwing those down in, that it's not resisting the screw or the screwdriver. So I'm going to drill some small holes. Well, she's a tight fit, but I think that's good. Okay, that came out really, really nice. I've got nothing bad to say. This is the whole thing. The whole thing looks good. It looks like it's original. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ring the bell so you get notified the next time I post a video. This is the last customer project for a while. We're going to get into some of those other things we talked about. Going to start the restoration on that Steven's favorite. That's coming up next. Got to start building those guitars. Got to pay the bills, guys. Got to pay for the heat. And appreciate you guys being here. Oh, by the way, I got a super thanks, and I want to say how much I appreciate that. That's another option you guys have. If you don't want to go over and join me on Patreon, you can certainly offer some kind of dollars for a particular video if it was helpful for you. I would appreciate any of that, guys. So thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video.